The future of Sadio Mane. There are strong reports that the forward will tell Liverpool he wants to leave the club this summer. We understand that as yet those discussions have not taken place, but Liverpool would need to sign a replacement. Well, Eddie Gibbs is from the Anfield Index and he joins us now. Good morning to you, Eddie. First of all, on Mane, how disappointed would you be if he does leave?
Good morning, chaps. I think it's one of those that's kind of been brewing for a while, alongside the talks of the Mo Salah contract. That we know that Sadio Mane and Mo Salah are both entering the last year of their contract, and it's whether Liverpool would like to see those players age on their books, if you like, or whether their model, which is a quite sustainable transfer model, is now going to require one of them to leave if they don't intend to sign a contract, then their value depreciates into that final year. So I don't suppose there's a massive shock or a massive disappointment. Sadio Mane was the first building block, if you like, of this Jurgen Klopp era that we've all enjoyed as fans, and at some point players are going to go. So I mean, you just have to accept that that's the case. I mean, it would be lovely if they both signed contracts and they were both here for a couple more years, and then Liverpool could still sell them, or they had some value to reinvest in the squad. But that perfect world scenario doesn't really exist.
How much do you think he's worth, Eddie?
That's the one thing I heard you guys just talking about that, and saying that the reports are that the club will be looking for a lot more. I think that's where the standoff could come a little bit, and we know how these things can run into tangents as the summer season goes, and it can get a bit silly at times. But I certainly don't think he's worth the sort of 25-30 million when you're looking just a few years ago, and Eden Hazard's leaving Chelsea with 1 year left on his contract. Cristiano Ronaldo's leaving Real Madrid on 1 year left on his contract, and you're seeing much higher fees than that. So maybe Sadio Mane's camp would be quite happy with that 25-30 million valuation, but I think Liverpool would be looking for a sizable amount, because as we know, their model is a sustainable. They don't have the resources of a Manchester City or a Chelsea, or certainly what Chelsea did have before. So they're going to have to reinvest that in other players. And obviously you're asking that question to your viewers this morning, who you think would likely replace Sadio Mane.
I'll tell you what, Eddie, I'll read out. We've had an amazing response to this, actually. We've had loads of tweets in about it, and we're obviously going to ask you. Caroline says Heung-min Son. A lot of people are saying Heung-min Son, actually, or Darwin Nunez. Gabriel says Darwin Nunez as well. Jack says Darwin Nunez or Son or Nkunku. There's Kanye says Darwin Nunez. Nimesh says Leroy Sané, swap deal with Sadio Mane. Loads here for Son, including Tim and Jess as well. Ian says Son, and there is someone being a little bit Paul. I think he might be having a little bit of a poking fun at Liverpool here.
Possibly.
Stuart Smith says Richarlison. So apart from him, Eddie, do any of those names stand out for you?
Well, we actually we have a transfer committee podcast that went out last week that the guys look at all of these things, and one of the things that they kind of discussed was if Sadio Mane left, and obviously the news cycle's moved on a little stage since then, but they are some of the names, certainly not Richarlison, but they're some of the names that were discussed. I suppose it comes down to whether Liverpool are going to look to kind of do what Manchester City have just done and go for a traditional number 9. It's not something Liverpool have played with. They've played with wingers coming in from left and right, and in that false 9 position that Roberto Firmino's played so well over the years. It's that profile of player that comes to the thought. If they are going to go for a Darwin Nunez, who obviously did amazing for Benfica against Liverpool's had a brilliant season. If they are going to go for someone like that, then that's going to slightly change the way Liverpool play, because that is a traditional number 9. The other name that you haven't mentioned there, which I know was one that we profiled really well, is Victor Osimhen of Napoli as well. So that's another one that people should perhaps take a look at. And I honestly think that the links to Son and I saw some links to Harry Kane as well. I think they're absolutely fanciful. They just don't seem to, as amazing players as he are. I think getting anyone out of a Daniel Levy run Spurs is a challenge at the best of times. And I'm not quite sure the age profile of those lads, and it's just not going to fit what I think Liverpool are looking to do, and this sort of replenishment of the squad to bring the age profile down a bit, and kind of keep them at that sweet spot that Jurgen Klopp likes, for all that energy that they have to exude during a long season.
Well, look, whatever happens, I think you'll be in good hands, won't you? The transfer team, the recruitment team have done terrific work at Liverpool over the last few years. But Eddie, moving on to those sort of serious matters. Over the weekend, we saw events unfold ahead of the Champions League final. What have you made of the treatment of Liverpool fans in Paris?
It's been absolutely galling to see the pictures coming out, and some of the people that we've had at the game over there, and some of the stories that have come back. I mean, most of them, in the majority, to be fair, were in the stadium nice and early, and they haven't got these stories. But when we speak to some of our listeners and some of our podcasters, the stories are quite frightful. Some of the things that have happened to them, that happened to their young families, and it's absolutely terrible. And I mean, I suppose the saving grace, and it's easy to say, I suppose, as a Liverpool fan, is that no one's been seriously hurt or injured, as far as I can make out so far. And I think that's a blessing, but that should be a given. Anyone going to a football match should expect that as standard. And I think there's a lot of questions, certainly on UEFA and of those French authorities, that seem to have really messed up the organisation. They're charging an absolute premium for this event, and then they're treating their customers with total disregard, which is a really sorry state. Whilst at the same time they've glorified touting with the way that they do the ticket process as well. So I think there's a substantial investigation required, and hopefully something really positive comes on the back of this, and of course underpinned by the fact that no one seems to have been seriously injured or hurt, which is the most important thing of all.
Yeah, it definitely is. Eddie, thank you.
Pleasure.
Just got some bonus Eddie there.